The biggest challenge facing leaders today is how to lead their teams through these unprecedentedly painful times. I've got some things to say about that. So it is May. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. I am a neuropsychologist, and I'm here to, over the course of the month, talk to you about well-being and how, if you're a leader, to become an emotional authority in these incredibly complex times. So I want to tell you what I'm not going to be doing. I'm not going to be talking to you about some light stretching at noon or some midday walks. The things I'm going to be talking about is how to take a radically expansive approach to what it means to be well against the backdrop of how complex it is to be a human being today. So there are already a lot of really great conversations out there about emotional intelligence, which is wonderful, right? This is why you're hearing so many people talk about psychological safety and empathy and authenticity. But here's the problem, right? Unless those interventions target the very pain point that are necessitating them, it will never work. So for example, it doesn't matter how many efforts you make around psychological safety if the number one pain point still remains. Let's talk about empathy, okay? I don't need your empathy when I just crushed my goals. I'm not like, hey, who wants to be sympathetic to the fact that I'm so awesome, right? I need your empathy when I am in pain, when I'm down, when I'm feeling inadequate, when I'm feeling overwhelmed. Similarly, there's a lot of these conversations about authenticity. And depending on how deep you want to get with authenticity, what people are really asking for, yes, sure, they want to know about like the crisis you had with your toddler, which I happen to have one, and okay, they're intense. But what people are really kind of longing for is a connection in the pain. So they want to know, how do you hold your own experiences of fear and loss and inadequacy? So these are difficult things to talk about, but they're difficult only because we're not accustomed. Okay? And so the reason I wanted to plunge into this in May is because I am a neuropsychologist, which means my expertise, or as I like to call it, my beat, is the relationship between your brain, your pain, and your relationships. And more importantly, I wanted to talk to you because right now, plenty of people are in a lot of pain. Now, how that pain looks is different across people, right? I think it's fairly safe to say that almost all of us are feeling uncertain. Some of us are anxious, afraid, agitated, or even angry. And some people are traumatized. So the question then becomes, well, how do you solve that? Well, the only way to solve a problem is to understand the experience of a problem. The things that we're talking about here are not theoretical, okay? So what I'm really going to get into this with you, is how pain is an embodied experience, right? The field of our emotional pain is our own bodies. And so for some people, that emotional pain is held in their own bodies in a posture of anxiety. So people talk about feeling wound up, feeling on edge, feeling irritable, feeling jumpy, feeling like it's only a matter before their head explodes, right? But here's the other thing I've been talking to leaders about recently because it's so important. Because we have been in this protracted state of pain now for so long, people have really had to hold their breath, kind of pull themselves to the midline, that people are exhausted. And once that exhaustion really sets in, the emotional posture changes, which is why you're now hearing people talk about how they're feeling burnt out, languishing, numb, apathetic. So, to give you an example of this, I just spoke with a senior leader this morning and I was asking her how she was doing. And she said, I feel paralyzed. She said, I no longer feel bad, Julia. I just feel frozen. Earlier this week, I had another conversation with a senior consultant, and I was asking him, sort of touching base around these issues too. And he said, I don't know how I'm doing. Am I stressed? I don't know. Am I overwhelmed? I don't know. I just feel kind of nothing. And so what I want you to understand is that both of those extremes are actually on the same neuropsychological continuum, right? They're just different presentations of a brain that has been fundamentally dysregulated. And so the reason I think that this will be helpful to you is that if you want to lead with radical emotional intelligence, there has to be a deeper understanding of the dark side. What is the other side of that coin out of emotional intelligence? And so what I want to do here is we're going to be talking a lot about pain. And the reason we're going to be talking a lot about pain is because you need to understand what pain is at the individual level. And once you understand that, you can solve for it. So if this sounds useful to you, feel free to drop me any questions you have, or feel free to tune in as I post some videos across May. Thanks so much.